in English, but I have refined it slightly for better readability and coherence while keeping the original essence intact. The story opens with a depiction of a man named Mulyanam, surrounded by numerous candles and shadowy figures. The narrator describes how Mulyanam is questioned in a dimly lit room filled with magical artifacts. The scene then shifts to a character named Lane, who discovers a mysterious bottle hidden inside a box. As he touches it, the lights begin to flicker before plunging the room into total darkness. Lane senses something moving swiftly past him, leading him to suspect the presence of Mulyanam, who is described as both a teacher and an integral participant in the unfolding events. Upon further investigation, Lane notices blood and feels an eerie presence growing stronger around him. In another scene, a person, possibly named Mulia, is presented with an object. Upon touching it, a friend nearby lowers their head, as if affected by an unseen force. The story then follows three friends: Ainen, an admirer of Mulia who practices a technique to extract energies, her friend Rindisa, who joins her in this practice, and Baguson, who disagrees with their methods, believing that such energies should be kept at a distance. The narrative explores the differing beliefs and actions of these individuals, as well as Mulia's role in manipulating the mysterious energies. The narrator introduces two girls who admire their host, a person associated with an Islamic school. The story then shifts to a television show featuring Mulia, who is portrayed as a problem solver and is shown fixing a broken pipe. The girls mimic Mulia's behavior, and the narrator ends this segment by expressing a desire to teach them a lesson. A dramatic incident unfolds when someone, referred to as Sathnahi, is warned not to follow Mulia. While reading, Sathnahi touches something, causing an injury and bleeding. Mulia intervenes, touching the wounded hand and reciting an incantation, which miraculously heals the deep wound. Upon opening a box, they discover numerous bise, possibly beads or small objects. Overcome with emotion, Sathnahi questions Mulia about their significance. The story takes a darker turn when someone is informed that there will be no sacrifice. A guest arrives and a daughter is seen performing wudu, ablution. An attempt is made to distract her using a nearby water source. The scene intensifies with movements involving arms, leading to a sudden release. A devilish presence appears, attacking and ultimately preventing the sacrifice from taking place. The scene then shifts to Ainen and Run. Run seemingly escapes a small market while Ainen flees, possibly due to the failed sacrifice. In the final segment, Milia, who appears to be involved in a crime, tells Ainen to become like her. In a shocking moment, Milia strangles herself, causing Ainen to fall down. Upon reaching the bottom, Ainen finds nothing. Returning to the hostel, it is revealed that Milia was actually a spy. Ainen's earlier vision is questioned, leading to a shocking revelation. Ainen is Milia's biological daughter, and the person she believed to be her father was merely a guardian. The narrator concludes by hinting at a long-kept secret that had been hidden from Ainen. This version keeps the structure of your script intact while improving clarity, flow, and readability. Let me know if you'd like any further refinements. Here is your script rewritten with improved clarity and coherence while maintaining the original meaning. The narrator explains Ainon's training and how it affected his relationship with Milia. Despite his training, Ainon still had feelings for Milia, but over time, resentment began to build. Eventually, he decided to leave Milia's friend's house. The narrator notes that he did not interfere with Ainon's decision. Later, Ainon, after reflecting on his achievements, decided to leave with Gaz and Run to return to Milia's friend's house. The narrator then questions how someone could stay away from their family for so long. The chapter ends abruptly, with the narrator mentioning Ainon and two others. The narrator recounts a story in which Ainen faces a terrifying encounter. Ainen seems unwilling to meet someone and is caught off guard by an unexpected event. A sinister entity, possibly a devil or supernatural being, calls out Ainen's name. People around Ainen are struck with fear, unable to speak upon seeing her. There are hints that someone might have been bribed, and it is suggested that Ainen has the ability to see and wash Milia's body. The narrator expresses reluctance or hesitation about the act of washing Milia, leaving an air of uncertainty about what follows. The narrator then describes the events following Milia's death. Her body is discovered, and the preparation process begins, including washing and applying certain rituals. The overwhelming grief of those present is evident as they weep openly. The focus then shifts to the burial preparations, emphasizing the solemn atmosphere. Meanwhile, Bryn and Bagus remain unaware of the unfolding events. After completing the required rituals, the mourners travel to a specific location. There, the narrator informs someone that their belongings were not left behind. The scene transitions as the narrator begins to show something to Bryn and Bagus, though the nature of it remains unclear. In another scene, Line intervenes, stopping two individuals from taking further action. A pregnant woman named Khalid arrives, claiming to be Aynan's foster mother. Aynan becomes emotional upon seeing her. The narrator then explains that Aynan's friends were given a task, though its details remain vague. Later, Baghouse and Rhine discuss the possibility of Shaheen offering support. Tension escalates when the two individuals are threatened and ordered to leave with Aynan. The confusion surrounding Aynan's situation grows, deepening the mystery. The narrator describes another unsettling moment where Lin wants to leave, but Aynan chooses to stay with the team. A shadowy figure appears behind Aynan. When she turns to check, nothing is there. As she begins to walk away, the shadow reappears and follows her, calling her name. Fear grips Aynan. When she finally turns back, the shadow lunges at her. The scene abruptly ends mid-sentence, leaving the outcome of the attack unknown. The final part of the story follows the narrator encountering Aynan on the road. Aynan is carrying a book, and the narrator senses that she is heading somewhere important. Choosing to follow her, the narrator then tells Aynan that they will take her to a special place, suggesting that a significant journey or revelation is about to unfold. This version improves readability, the same script rewritten in clearer or more polished English. Below is a refined version of your text. The narrator describes observing Baghouz, a place that appears desolate and abandoned. An azan, Islamic call to prayer, is given but is met with silence. Someone attempts to pray but is stopped, as the narrator explains that prayer is not allowed in this place. However, the narrator then states that Baghouz itself seems to be engaging in prayer, and another person prays alongside him. The narrator then witnesses something unusual. They see movement, though it is unclear what is moving, and then notice something upside down. This is highly unexpected, as the narrator remarks that such occurrences have been unheard of in this place for years. The event is so strange that the narrator is left in shock and disbelief. Due to the language used, the exact details of the phenomenon remain somewhat unclear. The story shifts to the construction of a mosque in a location where people previously did not pray. The focus then turns to Aynan and Rehan. Rehan, upon seeing Aynan's thumbprint on a treaty, immediately seeks him out. Aynan tells Rehan that he must trust him. Later, Rehan notices his bag near Aynan's room. The narrator describes a mysterious scene involving a mirror. The people in the room have never seen this mirror before. They enter the room and sit down, with Rehan sitting near the mirror. The mirror reflects a figure standing behind Rehan, a figure that appears to be a demon. Rehan records what he sees. Later, when he looks into the mirror in his own room, the demon is still there. The narrator reveals that, strangely, the mirror itself does not actually exist in that location. A conflict arises over money. Some people decide to return to the hostel, but Aina insists on leaving on her own terms. Baghu, who had previously listened to Aina's story, now wants to take a book from her. Aina refuses to give it up and insists on leaving, escalating the situation into a confrontation. The narrator describes a scene involving a young child, Rehmat, who lives with his mother. He asks about his cousin, Aina, and why she has come to stay. His mother is unable to answer. Later, she sees Aina with Rehmat and realizes that Aina is indeed his cousin. Rehmat then invites Aina to sit down. Another story unfolds, where a child encounters a mysterious figure. The child's seat is already occupied by someone else. Upon seeing the figure, the child feels fear. The figure gives the child something, perhaps a gift, perhaps a threat. The child then wakes up, realizing it was a dream, yet the dream leaves a lingering sense of fear and uncertainty. The figure identifies the child as belonging to someone named Milia and warns of impending danger. The story ends with the child experiencing a strange physical sensation, possibly a burning feeling in their limbs. The exact nature of the encounter and the figure's intentions remain unclear. Finally, the narrator describes an alarming scene involving an injured person, possibly Ramat. Blood and wounds cover his hands and feet, and his condition worsens. The narrator notes that something within him seems to burn or glow. Then movement is observed in Ramat's feet, hinting at further complications or a transformation. The scene is vivid and mysterious, relying on strong imagery to convey a sense of urgency and intrigue. This version clarifies the ideas while maintaining the original atmosphere and mystery. Let me know if you'd like any further refinements. Here is a more polished and refined version of your script while maintaining its original atmosphere and intent. The narrator describes a dimly lit scene where a flickering lamp casts shadows of people moving behind mirrors. Their movements mirror those who once followed Milia. The narrator explains that Bagus is warned of an impending demonic possession lurking behind the mirrors. However, despite the warning, Bagus fails to grasp the true danger. Ramat then urges Bagus to pray, and he agrees. As Bagus begins the call to prayer, Azan, he experiences unexpected difficulties. The narrator recounts how those around him begin to suffer, gripped by headaches and sudden bleeding. Even the mirrors seem affected, their reflections twisting and distorting unnaturally. As Bagus continues, his own throat begins to bleed, forcing him to stop. After the azan ends, everything appears normal at first. However, when the narrator glances at the mirrors, she sees something sinister, an unmistakable presence of evil. Determined to seek help, she rushes to find Bagus and Ren, who are in the steam room. Sensing Bagus's distress, she questions him before urging both Bagus and Ren to pray. As they begin, Ren takes it upon himself to protect them. From a distance, Ramat watches. As Bagus completes his prayer, Ramat, the transcript cuts off, leaving the action unresolved. The narrator then describes an eerie scene where someone's teeth chatter uncontrollably and their breath is visible in the cold air, a sign of demonic possession. Fear paralyzes those nearby, preventing them from offering help. The possessed individual eventually receives some form of aid, possibly from a protective force or entity. When they regain consciousness, they are left with lingering effects from the ordeal. The narrator concludes by suggesting that the truth is now exposed and a collective judgment is about to be made. Tum log hamarega. You people are ours. The description is vivid and conveys an unmistakable supernatural presence. The narrator recounts a village dispute where tensions rise as traditions are disrespected, disrupting the entire community. The villagers, unwilling to tolerate the changes, threaten to exile those responsible. An investigation follows, with questions arising about the presence of an agent and the identities of those involved. Suspicion falls on Ramat as people question whether he is the agent's son. Eventually it is revealed that Ramat is actually the son of Milia's second wife, and even his body, if deceased, has never been seen. The narrative ends with an ominous hint at Ramat's deeper involvement. A family conflict unfolds as a granddaughter struggles to reconcile with her grandfather's past actions. Unaware of his questionable dealings, she initially refuses to believe the truth. Despite his attempts to involve her, she rejects any participation. The narrator emphasizes the granddaughter's inner turmoil as she grapples with understanding the reality of her grandfather's past, leaving their relationship fractured. The narrator then reveals how Milia's father provided crucial information to the Englishman. He was eager to uncover their secrets, but in doing so, he also exposed how Milia had come into possession of a vast sum of money. As a result, people began depending on her financially, seeking her assistance. Additionally, Milia possessed hidden knowledge that led her and the Englishman to a secret underground chamber, previously hinted at in the film's opening scene. There, as they searched through old books, they discovered another concealed room hidden within the basement. This refined version enhances clarity while preserving the mysterious and suspenseful tone of the story. Let me know if you need further adjustment. Here is a refined version of your script in clear and polished English. The narrator describes a scene where a door is opened, revealing something they would rather not be associated with. They struggle to understand or recall certain details, possibly due to shock or trauma. As they recount their experience, they describe discovering a specific location marked with a spell or inscription. Upon closer inspection, they notice a creature or entity which quickly flees the scene. The narrator follows its movements, observing its attempts to hide or escape before it ultimately encounters someone else in a room. The description abruptly cuts off mid-sentence. The narrator then details a sudden attack on a run, possibly a place or a person. A scream echoes through the air as the attacker seizes the victim and drags them away. They reach a set of double doors, where the attacker, using the victim's hairpins, forces the door open. Before those inside can react, the attacker pushes further, struggling to pull the victims inside. Despite great difficulty, they succeed. However, when they attempt to leave, they find the front door locked. The narrator notes an eerie presence watching them from behind. In another scene, many people are frantically searching for something. The narrator recounts an attempt to open a door while others desperately try to escape from a fire. The room is already filled with smoke, making the situation even more dire. The focus then shifts to a heightened state of awareness in the village, where people follow an individual who appears to be in a trance. Despite the worsening crisis, the leader remains eerily composed, while the growing tension and urgency make it clear that staying in the village is no longer an option. The narrator describes a group preparing to leave, possibly fleeing the country, when they encounter someone named Anun, who appears to be experiencing possession or some other affliction. Soon after, Bargu and others arrive on the scene. Bargu attempts to help by removing something from Anun's head, believing a demon resides within them. He manages to keep the entity at bay, but the narrator remains confused about the group's intentions regarding Anun. Observing Anun's worsening condition, they conclude that the possession is now complete. The narrator then describes Milia's unsettling transformation. Their fiery red eyes and devilish aura confirm their demonic nature, as if their very essence is tied to darkness. Disturbed by this revelation, the narrator distances themselves from Milia. Later, determined to dispose of the body, the narrator and an unnamed accomplice take Milia into the wilderness. The scene shifts to Milia's room, where a horrifying sight unfolds. Everyone present is bowing in submission before Milia's demonic presence. The narrator recounts a terrifying chase through the forest, where Ramat and his mother are pursued by Ainon. Ainon attacks Ramat, but his mother intervenes, stabbing Ainon's foot with a sharp object. This momentary distraction gives Ramat the chance to escape. As he flees, he encounters... Here is a refined version of your script in clear and polished English. The narrator describes a scene where a door is opened, revealing something they would rather not be associated with. They struggle to understand or recall certain details, possibly due to shock or trauma. As they recount their experience, they describe discovering a specific location marked with a spell or inscription. Upon closer inspection, they notice a creature or entity which quickly flees the scene. The narrator follows its movements, observing its attempts to hide or escape before it ultimately encounters someone else in a room. The description abruptly cuts off mid-sentence. The narrator then details a sudden attack on a run, possibly a place or a person. A scream echoes through the air as the attacker seizes the victim and drags them away. They reach a set of double doors, where the attacker, using the victim's hairpins, forces the door open. Before those inside can react, the attacker pushes further, struggling to pull the victims inside. Despite great difficulty, they succeed. However, when they attempt to leave, they find the front door locked. The narrator notes an eerie presence watching them from behind. In another scene, many people are frantically searching for something. The narrator recounts an attempt to open a door, while others desperately try to escape from a fire. The room is already filled with smoke, making the situation even more dire. The focus then shifts to a heightened state of awareness in the village, where people follow an individual who appears to be in a trance. Despite the worsening crisis, the leader remains eerily composed, while the growing tension and urgency make it clear that staying in the village is no longer an option. The narrator describes a group preparing to leave, possibly fleeing the country, when they encounter someone named Anun, who appears to be experiencing possession or some other affliction. Soon after, Bargu and others arrive on the scene. Bargu attempts to help by removing something from Anun's head, believing a demon resides within them. He manages to keep the entity at bay, but the narrator remains confused about the group's intentions regarding Anun. Observing Anun's worsening condition, they conclude that the possession is now complete. The narrator then describes Milia's unsettling transformation. Their fiery red eyes and devilish aura confirm their demonic nature, as if their very essence is tied to darkness. Disturbed by this revelation, the narrator distances themselves from Milia. Later, determined to dispose of the body, the narrator and an unnamed accomplice take Milia into the wilderness. The scene shifts to Milia's room, where a horrifying sight unfolds. Everyone present is bowing in submission before Milia's demonic presence. The narrator recounts a terrifying chase through the forest, where Ramat and his mother are pursued by Ainon. Ainon attacks Ramat, but his mother intervenes, stabbing Ainon's foot with a sharp object. This momentary distraction gives Ramat the chance to escape. As he flees, he encounters Bargu, who joins him in a desperate attempt to rescue his mother. Meanwhile, Milo and another character embark on a mission to rescue two missing individuals. They believe that a method to counter the shadow, a being that possesses humans, can be found in Milia's basement. The narrator reveals that the only way to kill a shadow-possessed person is with the blood of someone who has mercy. They reflect on Ramat's decision to kill the shadow, questioning whether he did it to eradicate the evil or if there was another, unknown motive. The possibility arises that his actions might have had unforeseen consequences for the larger situation. As the story nears its climax, the narrator describes a desperate attempt to find a solution to an ongoing crisis. With no clear answer in sight, an alternative plan is devised, involving a group gathering to confront the issue. A key figure, Ramat, is called upon for assistance. The narrator vividly details the presence of an injured person and the emotional intensity of those involved. As the scene unfolds, Ramat takes action, working urgently to resolve the problem. This version improves clarity, flow, and engagement, while preserving the eerie, suspenseful tone of your script. Let me know if you'd like further refinement. The text is already in English, but if you're asking for a clearer or more refined version, here is a polished rewrite. The narrator describes the villain as a wicked and ruthless individual, a devil who wielded his dark powers to manipulate people. He sacrificed his wives and neglected his children in pursuit of his own selfish desires, painting a picture of cruelty and inhumanity. However, the narrator reveals that the villain's actions were part of a larger scheme. His daughter was gravely ill, and he was desperately searching for a cure. He believed that only someone with the power of Mulia could provide the remedy, suggesting a link between Mulia's resources and the potential salvation of his daughter. This revelation implies that, despite his evil deeds, the villain was driven by a desperate attempt to save his child. The narrator recounts an incident where false news of a death was deliberately spread, drawing a large gathering of people. During this event, a ritual took place, including a supposed devil's possession of an elderly woman. The narrator mentions that a person named Ajin was aware of the situation. Initially, Ajin and their friends were known by a different name, but this changed after Ajin's involvement. The story continues with a terrifying event in which the devil lifted a person named Lin into the air and then dropped them, causing injury. Ultimately, the old woman revealed everything that had transpired. In another scene, the narrator describes the horrifying discovery of a room filled with corpses. These bodies were arranged in a disturbing, inverted manner, described as upside-down belted. The narrator explains that these sacrifices were made by someone named Mulia to gain powers from the devil. The entire village was left in shock at the revelation. Responsibility for handling the situation now falls upon someone named Run. The narrator then describes the sudden and mysterious disappearance of several people, only for them to reappear before a powerful figure. Upon the arrival of this figure, all the corpses prostrated themselves, an event that left the villagers in utter disbelief.